Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
All right. Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Scott Novis with me here today. Scott is an engineer with multiple degrees, holds a number of patents, is the founder of GameTruck, and is the current president of the Entrepreneurs Organization. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tim. It's nice to be here.
So we talked briefly before the show. The Entrepreneurs Organization, as well, is incredibly interesting to me. I know some people who've been involved in that and love it. How long have you been president of that?
Well, okay, so I'm going into being president. I've been in the organization for 10 years, and it is, if you're a business owner or a founder, it is an amazing support network. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people talk about, like, why are you into it? And you enter for business reasons, you stay for personal reasons. And I think its great strength is it's a peer learning organization. So you meet up with other people that can actually understand what you're going through and support you. And I think everybody needs that kind of community, whatever you're doing, whatever your profession is. It's just a little harder to find that type of connection when it's business.
Sure.
Because it's like, I run a mobile entertainment franchise company. So like my business is weird and interesting and fun in all sorts of ways, but running into somebody that perhaps runs bars or somebody else that runs an online retail store on the surface, you think, what do you guys have in common? It turns out a bunch.
Right.
A lot of things that have to do with owning and operating a business. And so that sort of professional organization has been had a huge positive impact on my life.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's back up. I glossed over a lot of, you've done a lot of great stuff in the past. You want to give me a little bit more about your background, how you got into the GameTruck business and so forth?
Absolutely, sure. Quick, I grew up in Michigan, and I knew instantly I did not want to spend the rest of my life in cold, cloudy, rainy weather. And I was going to pursue.
For our viewers, you don't have to, by the way. We're here by choice.
You are free to leave. I told my mom that for years. You don't have to stay in Michigan. You can go. And I do love to go back and visit, but I love to live here. And I went to Arizona State to study engineering. And my feeling was that the engineering degree at any public university, they're all accredited. They're teaching you the same stuff. So pick where you want to live, go to that school, and then you'll have a really good chance of getting a job in that market. That worked for me. And due to the nature of putting myself through school, my parents gave me a great start, but I had to finish it out myself. I ended up interning at Motorola, and they only hired electrical engineers, and I really wanted to do computer engineering. I'm like, I'm an electrical engineer, and so I got both degrees.
Okay.
You do what you got to do, right?
Yep.
And that might have teed me up to be an entrepreneur. I'm not sure, but I ended up getting involved in the video game industry because all of my patents were in display technology. So I was doing a lot of stuff with graphics. And I just thought, the people that drive the edge of graphics are game developers, and had, like so many things, knew a guy, they were hiring, and I came in to become president of a little startup studio called Rainbow Studios. And we made some pretty awesome racing games for PlayStation and then later Xbox. Never directly developed for Nintendo. We outsourced that, porting to somebody else. But after a while, moved on to Disney and started getting on the corporate merry-go-round. And went, I want to be home. I don't want to miss my kids. I like, the traveling all over the country and relocating the family just wasn't something I wanted to do. So I had this, the weird thing about being a video game executive is no other industry takes that seriously. Like, everybody admires the revenue, but they're like, other tech companies are just like, well, games are frivolous.
Right.
Like, it's $280 billion a year industry that has to ship on time, on budget. Oh, by the way, the only spec that matters is it's fun. You can check every single box in your ship criteria, and if people aren't having a good time, you're not going to sell anything. nobody took that seriously. And so how did I end up owning my own company? I'm stubborn and I'm proud. So I'm
Okay.
like, I am not going to prostrate myself and try to convince, sorry, people doing big bank software or whatever,
Right.
that I've got skills. I'm like, I'm just going to go do my own thing.
Right.
And maybe that wasn't the smartest choice. I don't know. But I looked at buying franchises, and the principle behind a lot of franchise concepts are macro trends. And so I started doing my analysis, and I'm like, there are no good arcades anymore.
Right.
There just weren't. And I'm like, what happened? And some big social changes like cocooning, bigger houses, home entertainment systems.
Mhm.
And from my opinion, the best games to play with your friends were no longer in an arcade. They were on
Right.
a home console.
Yep.
And so I thought, man, how do I do this? How do I create a party? And looked at investing in real estate, all that other stuff, and went, it doesn't work for a variety of reasons. What I really want is a living room I could take to your house, a living room and wheels, like the ideal environment for gamers. So I built a prototype in my garage, invited all my kids' friends over. They were like, this is amazing. And a kid named Daniel Garland, who is now a father of his own, um, an awesome guy. But when he was 11 years old, said, this would be the greatest birthday party ever. And I thought, let's make one. And so we built one. And then, it sort of was like word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, and it blew up. And it was like, oh man. We then built like 4 more trailers. And I don't know if you know, there's a limit to how many pickup trucks you can buy on a personal line of credit. And we were getting capped out, and people were calling from all over the country. And so we made the decision to franchise.
Okay.
And that was about 20 years ago. And that's how I got here today.
Okay. Nice. I remember, I don't know, it was 8 or 10 years ago. We had a game truck come for my boy's birthday party once.
Awesome. Well, I hope they had a great time.
Oh yeah, they did. I'm a product of that myself. I'm a nerd. I grew up playing. Actually, my
What was your
neighbor had an
game?
Atari.
Yeah.
We had an Intellivision, and then from there I had a Commodore 64,
Yep.
and moved up. Anyway, those are some golden years of arcades for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there were just so many, there were great games and great experiences. And my business, we only bring out multiplayer games. We are really trying to only bring out games that you can play with your
Right.
friends. For me, it's the social dynamic.
Yep.
And we get it from the kids all the time of like, this is so much more fun than playing online. We're like, yeah, the other 80% of human communication is coming into play. It's actually 93%, but words are
Right.
7%.
Right.
Tone is like 38%, and body language is 55%. Throw all that in when we're in the
Right.
same space
Very different
playing,
experience.
it's a radically different experience.
Very cool. Okay. And to your point on being taken seriously, yeah, I met one of the head guys at Lego, and he was in charge of, like, a lot of the branding, the Star Wars and all this other stuff. And he's like, yeah, the revenue is off the chart, and people are just like, oh, you work for Lego. That's cute,
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. You're like, uh-huh. Yeah. And it's and I think that's the maturation process now is, I'm very blessed that my confidence now comes from within and how I choose to
Right.
show up, and I know what I can contribute. And if that works for you, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, hey, I'm not the guy for you. And that is totally fine. And I think there's that tipping point when you're moving from proving yourself to convincing other people to invest in you. And you might have gone through that with your own thing where now you're the investor, whether it's
Mhm.
money or time or attention or whatever. It I don't know. It's that process of, it feels good to be. It's a different headspace to be in than
Right.
not worrying about proving my worth. Let's put it that way.
Right. Right. Well, and I have investors from a variety of different fields. A lot of them are business owners. Almost half are physicians, but I have a number of software engineers, and one or two are worked for game companies and at equity events, and they had money, they had capital they had to place, and things like that. And yeah, it's not something I grew up. It was kind of a dream, right? I'm going to make video games, and now it's like a reality. People have been
Yeah,
successful for decades doing it.
that's awesome. Yeah, that was an interesting industry because some of those events were incredible. Some of them were like, and yeah, the whole the the thing that opened up my eyes, particularly getting into the entrepreneurs organization, is that I had out of the Midwest I need a job. It's all about a job. It's all about I got to work hard. And I was thinking it was always about salary and job. And
Right.
or the other extreme you get when you talk to people that are starting up companies is exit, exit, exit. You got to exit, build a sell, build a sell. The game studio we worked on never made money, but it exited for 51 million because we made games that were worth hundreds of millions to the publisher. So these big corporations would buy it and away you go, and then you get all that other stuff.
Right.
Did you know you can actually build a profitable company and keep it? It's not something people talk about, but it's something
Right.
I learned in, and when you look into the franchising industry,
Well,
you
there's a
see a
big,
lot of that.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
there's a
hey,
schism. There's the mom and pops who that's it. They're just trying to get back. And then there's the people who are in the business industry. It's all about trading, right? And they
yeah.
want to,
And, there's a whole other tier that I think people don't always get exposed to when you talk about prosperity is owning an asset that generates revenue for you.
right.
And you don't have to exit that. You can keep that and operate it. And, I had a friend that we were coaching
And
with
accumulate them.
and
That's the kind of
accumulate
the
them. Yes.
goal, right?
Reinvest in
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Grow them.
Multiple diverse revenue streams.
And then you can, then you can start moving into legacy. Like,
Right.
and that's where that third chapter of life comes in of like, you took care of your family, took care of yourself, took care of your family. Now what? Like, what's the end game? And I've been very blessed that being around a lot of the type A personalities I do see people that get on the hamster wheel of achieve, 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 achieve. And you're like, what are you aiming for? Like, are you
Right.
just going to stay on that the rest of your life till you drop?
Right.
Like,
Let's
how
back
much
up.
more do you need? And it's like,
Okay.
what's the life you want to live?
Right. Okay, Scott, for our listeners, let's back up and talk a little bit more about the concept you're talking about in like Shakespeare's Ages of Men, right? There's
Yes.
different stages of
Yeah. So this
growth.
came out of a book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. And is a concept that we live life in 4 big chapters. And I think they're 20 to 25 years each, roughly. And it's like phase 1 is take care of yourself, right? I think we get that, like raising kids. As a friend of mine once said, he goes, I'm not raising kids, I'm raising adults. They start as kids. We want to end with adults.
Yeah.
But you're getting that, can you take care of yourself? And when you get that sort of self-reliant, independent, you've done a good job. Most of us, the next 25 years, we move into building, striving, building a career. Maybe you're building a family. Maybe you're doing both. Maybe you're building a company, but you are now having an impact on a smaller group of people immediately around it. It could be your team, could be your family. Sometimes it's both, but there's definitely this expansion where you're using your generative capability, your talents, your abilities to make more happen. And you're doing it for people that you care about and you can see the effect on them. And it's really satisfying. Culturally, we get stuck there. We get stuck in that striving, building, expansion mode. There is a third phase, and that's what like David Brooks with the Second Mountain is advocating and Arthur Brooks is talking about. The third phase is you did it for your family. Can you do it for your community? Can you become a mentor? Can you become an elder?
Which is kind of historically how the political system was supposed to work, right?
Yeah, but we built through social media and connection and visibility, we keep putting individual success and aggrandizement front and center to everybody as if that's what you're supposed to be aiming at because it's attention grabbing. And so you could see where people get stuck in that, hamster wheel.
Right.
And there's some
but
physiological
also,
changes that happen too.
Sure. But also, I just want to point out that the fact that a lot of young people want to go change the world, but they don't have their own act together first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a universal sort of, they've got the energy to go do a thing and they want to have an impact. And that's, to me, the energy that should lead them into the second phase. You're right. They don't have your act together. And it's hard to have your act together. It takes a long time to get your act together. And my experience was, what forced me to get my act together was being responsible for somebody else.
Right.
I will never forget when Stacy and I brought Ryan home from the hospital. I'm standing at the top of the stairs holding this little bundle going, when are the parents going to show up? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And man, that
Great
you want
point.
to talk about cut through a lot of garbage was, this kid I am responsible for. We are responsible for. And so our relationship had to go to a whole other level. Our, how we were as people. And what's that old, I love the old prayer, Lord, let me be the person my dog thinks I am. And it, like that with kids, they're watching you all the time,
Yep.
all the time
Yep.
they're watching. And so you're in this figuring yourself out while you're taking care of them. And I think you do that for a couple decades. Hopefully you come out the other side a little wiser, a little calmer, and a little ready to help that next generation make the same lift you did.
Right.
And that becomes, that's the phase I'm most excited about being into, mentoring, giving back, volunteerism. And if you get to the fourth phase, and not many people hit there, that's what I was telling you, like Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, are you good for humanity? And like nobody thinks of Mother Teresa at 20 years old, right? We think of her at the end when just meeting her was like a religious experience. It was transformational for people.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's rare, but it can happen. But it gives you something to aim for.
Next level impact for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so for me, this level is, I have two things I do. I have goals. We gotta have goals, but I balance that with standards. So I call it goals and roles. And roles are really not about outcome. They're about how I'm going to show up. It's the core of Brene Brown's vulnerability. Vulnerability is showing up when you don't control the outcome. And those are the scariest things to do. And high achievers hate that stuff because they want to achieve. So if you're wrapped up in the achievement, you will avoid growth opportunities because you don't control the outcome. So to balance that out, I have I'm trying to get this finished and done, but I'm also participating in things where I'm going to show up like this. And there's actually some science behind it of how they balance each other out of everything goal-oriented, task-oriented is dopamine and cortisol-driven, stress and reward. There's two other hormones we need to flourish: oxytocin, connection, and serotonin, joy. They don't, my Mac is now trying to help. But they don't respond to tasks. They respond to connection. So literally you could take like the goals SMART, specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely, and flip it. It's not specific, it's general. Think about you're a parent. When do you want that to end? What's your goal to finish that? You're going to do it and never do it again. What? Yeah. I don't ever want to finish being a father. Like I love my kids. That is, it becomes more general and it's not measurable. It's not quantitative. It's qualitative. What is the quality of how you show up? So, and it's not that it's relevant, it's relational. What's the relationship you want to have with your kids? Especially as they move through the phases of their lives, and that they move from little ones to the more independent they are to they're finding themselves, and then as adults. Like these are different things that are happening and they're timeless. And sometimes it's not action at all. It is literally being there for someone else. It's emotional. And so if you start moving into those spaces and get very clear, then you unlock joy and connection. And so now you can have all four things in your life. And so I'm very passionate about helping people become aware of, do you have enough standards? Are you clear about your roles in your life? Because that's what's going to balance out the busyness.
Right.
There, to me, nothing busy. Like some of my best memories were reading bedtime stories to my kids. I was not hurried or rushed. Like you just wanted that moment to last forever. You needed them to go to sleep, of course, but the connection and the closeness and that's not a goal, right? To me, it was like, this is how I'm going to be here for, my family. And so that's kind of a thing that I'm a big believer in is if you want to prosper, financial prosperity is one bucket, but another one is standards. How do you want to, how do you want to feel? How do you want to look? How do you want to perform? But the feeling part's really important.
Right. For sure. 100%. So you're obviously very well read. Is there a particular mentor or influence that I think has helped you on your path to health and wealth and success?
Well, I'm super lucky that I'm surrounded by great entrepreneurs and I've got a lot of great friends that I learned from. We do a big thing in experience sharing. We don't give advice and it's like we'll share what happened to us or what we know, and that helps a lot. But I would say a transformational book for me was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. That started, Zig Ziglar said, if you drive a lot, listen to audiobooks. So Tim Ferriss for our work week said, stop, get off social media, get off the news. start being intentional. So I started listening to TED Talks instead of reading the news, because these are smart people trying to solve hard problems and they believe they can do it. So they're optimistic. And so that was uplifting and informative. And then that moved into, well, let me read some books by some of these people or listen to them. And that just started a snowball effect of, an audiobook is 6 or 7 hours long. I walk my dog every morning. I can consume a book a week. If you do that on average, you'll get 40 books a year. It's crazy.
And that's that's a year or more of somebody's knowledge put into a 1 week for you.
Yeah, 100%. And I've slowed down a little bit because if it's a really good book, I want to put it into practice. And so I will spend more time pulling out the nuggets or the gems and going, how can I make that happen? How can I act on that idea? How can I integrate that into my life? And, David Brooks had this thing like 10% better. Can I be 1% better, 2% better? Tim, how does compounding your investments? Is that a good thing?
Yeah, it's magical.
So I try to compound my learning by building a platform, making it a habit, getting it to be a practice, and then add the next thing that fits. So it really started with a couple of ideas that got me out of being busy and then said, start improving yourself and building on that. And I've been doing that for 10 years.
Excellent. That's gold, Scott. Thank you very much for all that. So this is, where's my sign? This is Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, right? So it sounds like business has been going very well for you. What sort of things are you doing on a personal and professional level to keep your prosperity moving forward? Investing in traditional things, reinvesting in your businesses?
Yeah, right now, our core investment is in systems. In that we've been very lucky as a franchise company. We've got some phenomenal owners. Parents take care of their kids. But how can we be more efficient? And can we be easier to do business with? So we're always trying to sharpen the axe of having the business run a little bit better, grow a little bit more. Our current challenge is that I'm heavily involved in is understanding how to make our franchises. So we've got a couple corporate locations, how to run without active owner involvement. And so, there are certain franchises you could buy as a pure investment. You never have to set foot in the store. Other ones require the owner to be very involved. Because of my background was in technology, the game trailer and the equipment, that runs great. It was the business systems that I didn't fully understand and I didn't fully have fleshed out. And so we absolutely had to have an active owner. And what we crush is consumer marketing. So we generate a lot of leads that's about 70 to 80% of what will keep a GameTruck franchise busy and full. But that owner's filling the last 20%, and that's B2B sales. So we're very involved in building out a robust business to business sales program to fill in that last 20% to where 100% of a profitable GameTruck location does not require day-to-day involvement of the manager. And then that will allow us to open many more locations and make the product easier to sell. Because that's what franchising is. It's retail business sales. It's business systems licensing. We're licensing you a system to go make money. And when we started 10 or 15 years ago, there were a lot of people that were looking to do the work and be involved in the business, which was awesome. But we're just seeing a different profile today. Buyers are looking for more of a asset, something they want to own, be proud that they own, and have it work for them. But if you're interested in working in a GameTruck business, let me know. I'll be happy to talk to you about it. But that's what I'm involved in now, is how do we improve that system, because that will multiply our scalability.
And is finding, so in that particular scenario, people who are looking to own it but not run it, is it difficult to staff it?
We've been really lucky with the staffing. We're heavily involved in developing AI to smooth out and make it easier to communicate effectively with people. And it's really not about spamming people. It's really about, let me make this message be completely clear to you from your perspective. So I'll give you an example. If the old school way was, I'm going to tell you this laundry detergent that's going to sell, it's going to make your clothes smell spring fresh. Well, depending on who you are, that could be perfect. You're like, I want that. Or you may think it would be embarrassing to smell like flowers all the time. I don't want that. So we're beginning to discover that one message absolutely does not appeal to everybody at all. And if I can meet you where you are and say, look, this is why this party, this event, or this job makes sense for you, it's like, I want the people that want this job. But the problem I have is I have to describe this to you in a way that resonates with you. And since I'm not you, I may not know what that is. And AI helps us get that message right. Practical example. All of our owners think of their key employees as drivers. 0%, absolutely zero out of a survey of 400 people, not one of those employees called themselves a driver. They never use that word and they don't think of themselves that way. So if you're advertising for drivers, you're hiring the wrong people.
Right.
So we had to dig in and find out, how do you think about it? What is it that you do? What do you care about? And so in creating our onboarding, training, job, all of it is designed to attract the person that really wants to do this job. They see themselves as hosts. They see themselves as facilitators. They see themselves as responsible people that, like, they want to make other people happy. They love the connection and they want to share their passion with video games with other people and make good money on the weekends. That job I can hire to. We get inundated with applications for that job.
Right.
Nobody applies to be a driver.
Right.
So when you talk about, is it easy to staff? If you understand who you're looking for and you're willing to make the effort. So for any business to put yourself in the other person's shoes and sell them something they want to buy, you're buying with money their time. And if you do it right, their time is more valuable than the money you're giving them. That's how all capitalism works. It's got to be fair enough and equitable enough that the work you do can generate enough revenue for all of us to come out ahead. But it's a transaction, and hopefully a relational one. It's all about understanding how the other person sees it and meeting their needs. And so we try to attract employees the same way we attract customers. We have what you need and what you're looking for.
Okay, great. It's very, very good insight. Thank you for sharing that. That's more gold from Scott here. So circling back as we wrap up here, you're talking about the different ages of man
it's adults, it's men and women too.
Yeah, I know. So I was thinking of the Shakespearean thing again, but yes. The different phases of life where, looking forward to the future, what sort of goals do you have? What sort of impact do you hope to make, in your next stage?
Personally, I have a huge ambition is that, I recently published a book, and it is, Work at Play. And what I want to do is, like, the core of all these things for me are, what can I do about the loneliness epidemic and people being isolated? And so our mission at GameTruck is to create feelings of belonging through play. Everybody believes kids should play. The bigger windmill I'm tilting at is adults should play too. So we do a workshop. We actually developed a video game designed for adults. It's super simple to play. It's really fun. The hard part is working together. And so what we do is especially for remote or hybrid teams, so this thing runs in a web browser, but it's designed to bring people together and get them to think about and experience the stressors that are making work so busy and stressful. It's like, here's what you can do for each other. Here's how you can help each other. And the game is cooperative, not competitive. So it's literally, plus, I got news for you and everybody listening that is a manager or a business owner. Gen Z is coming at you hot and fast. 90% of these kids have never been on a team. They don't know what a team is. They don't know what it is to work towards team goals. There's nobody training them to be a team. Our entire education infrastructure is based on the individual performance and individual grades and catering to individual needs. And 90% of these kids fall out of team sports by 10 and 11 years old. So you're the first time they're going to be on a team. You might want to be ready to teach them the skills to be on a team. They don't have them. Nobody's giving them to them. So we made this to create a fun way, because they all game, for people of different generations and different backgrounds to come together and learn how to work together and do it in a fun way. So that's my passion. I want to go try to alleviate suffering in that because it's needless. We don't have to suffer there. But the way you went into your career, Tim, is not the way your kids and my kids are going to go into their careers.
Sure.
And everyone after them, it's just different. So that's where I want to take everything I've learned over the last 20 years of being in the video game industry and running millions, I think almost 1 million events and 15 million people entertained, is like, how can we bring this to the workplace in a productive way that people come out with real skills, they really have fun, they learn something, they work together better.
Very cool. That's a great idea. More great points, Scott. You reminded me a little bit of there's an app on the phone that we play that the kids like to play. We played with other people too, called Space Team, where it's collaborative and you have to keep the ship flying. And I've seen other ones like that where it's like a bunch of people have computers in a room. They all sit down. It's like a Star Trek simulator or something. Everybody's trying to navigate the challenge for an hour and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ours is a cooking game. Like, everybody knows food. I don't have to explain food to anybody. Like, have you ever eaten or been around a salad? Yeah. Okay, let's go.
You got a big fancy French kitchen, and you got a sous chef, and you got different people all in different roles.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. There's some technical psychology behind it, that it is it's open-ended. There's lots of ways to play it. And there's lots of ways to get to the different levels of outcomes. So it's really around, you got to communicate. And what do you communicate? And how do you communicate? And the two things that shut adults up, like just shut people down: urgency and uncertainty. So over and over again, I'm going to push those buttons for you, is put you in, as soon as you master it, we're going to show how small changes kick you back into the feelings of urgency and uncertainty.
Oh, brilliant. Yes.
It's okay. How do you help each other? Because that's the real skill, is recognizing when you're experiencing the stressors of urgency and uncertainty and pulling together as a team to confront those problems. And when you get to the other side of that your gift is resilience. Those teams are incredibly resilient. And do I have time for one more story?
Yeah, please.
So I really got a front row seat to the power of this during COVID, because when I started GameTruck, I didn't really understand. So we talk about that third phase. The power of vision is giving somebody a vision that can serve them for a long time. Simon Sinek has this thing called a just cause, and I think that's the best template. But the idea is that you're positively for something. It's inclusive. It is challenging and open-ended and idealistic. And so when I first started GameTruck, I was like, so many people wanted to get in the video game industry that I was in. I'm like, oh, this would be an easy way to get in the video game industry. The problem was, as soon as you bought the business, you fulfilled your dream. And you're like, now what? I own this thing, but now what? I'm like, oh no. And so the vision for a lot of the owners became, I drive trucks to parties. When I started the esport business, so we got involved in it, we were tackling a different problem. We wanted to host events where you could make a friend. We were trying to get lonely kids, lonely gamers out of their bedrooms into safe spaces at boys and girls clubs, churches, rec centers, anywhere there's a safe environment in your neighborhood for kids to play together. Kids just got so isolated. If they're not playing sports, you know where they land? Video games, my world. So we wanted to recreate a safe space for them to socialize. So it was all about hosting an event that you can make a friend. We literally created a new kind of tournament. And it was our, yes, you can play. That was our mantra. Am I too late to sign up? No, we can get you in a tournament. Like, we're going to do this. It was amazing how we built this experience. COVID hits. Well, my GameTruck owners, we were like, hey, can we do events online? No, because their self-image was, I drive a truck to somebody's house to do an event, and I can't do that anymore. So the virtual events did not fit their worldview. And, we just shut down hard. But the other team, I was like, can you do your job online? And their answer now, instead of being about equipment or a specific task, it was about the vision. And they're like, we make friends online all the time. We can absolutely do that. And in a couple of days, the entire company pivoted. We did over 1,000 virtual tournaments during COVID for college students, high schools, and families all over the country. That saved our company, was that move. But it was they were resilient because they had a vision of the effect they were trying to have for other people.
Right.
And it wasn't focused on a piece of equipment or a specific task. It was, we are trying to bring this benefit to others. So when I look at, it's not the game, it's not the workshop, it's the effect. How do we teach these young people how to work together? How do we help bridge the gap between the generations and the experiences? So what you're getting are resilient teams. You know, how can I help build that trust between coworkers so that you have a great team working at your company? And it came out of that experience, is that that's what we're trying to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome. More great stuff, Scott. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Yeah, we do have to wrap it up. Yeah, we do have to wrap it up right now. I'd like to say thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Scott, for joining me today. For our listeners who want to learn more about you or connect, where can they find you?
I'm most active on LinkedIn, so they can find me at Scott Novis. And my website is scottnovis.com. And of course, if you're looking for a video game party, GameTruck.com, GameTruck.com. There's awesome people there to help you book an event. If you contact me, I will love to talk to you, but I can't book an event for you. Okay. So, but yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Scott, for sharing all your story and all your insights into success and impact. Crazy good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.